Buddha or Karl Marx? To the original creed of Karl Marx. Let us now turn to the creed of Karl Marx as originally propounded by him. Karl Marx is no doubt the father of modern socialism or communism. But he was not interested merely in propounding the theory of socialism that had been done long before him by others. Marx was more interested in proving that his socialism was scientific. His crusade was as much against the capitalists as it was against those whom he called the Utopian Socialists. He disliked them both. It is necessary to note this point because Marx attached the greatest importance to the scientific character of his socialism. All the doctrines which Marx propounded had no other purpose than to establish his contention that his brand of socialism was scientific and not utopian. By scientific socialism, what Karl Marx meant was that his brand of socialism was inevitable and inescapable and that society was moving towards it and that nothing could prevent its march. It is to prove this contention of his that Marx principally labored. Marx's contention rested on the following theses. They were: I. That the purpose of philosophy is to reconstruct the world and not to explain the origin of the universe. 2. That the force which shapes the course of history are primarily economic. 3. That society is divided into two classes, owners and workers. 4. That there is always a class conflict going on between the two classes. That the workers are exploited by the owners who misappropriate the surplus value, which is the result of the workers' labor. 6. That this exploitation can be put an end to by nationalization of the instruments of production, i.e., abolition of private property. 7. That this exploitation is leading to greater and greater impoverishment of the workers. 8. That this growing impoverishment of the workers is resulting in a revolutionary spirit among the workers and the conversion of the class conflict into a class struggle. 9. That as the workers outnumber the owners, the workers are bound to capture the state and establish their rule, which he called the dictatorship of the proletariat. Kiss smiley. These factors are irresistible and therefore socialism is inevitable. I hope I have reported correctly the propositions which formed the original basis of Marxian socialism. 3. What survives of the Marxian creed? Before making a comparison between the ideologies of the Buddha and Karl Marx, it is necessary to note how much of this original corpus of the Marxian creed has survived, how much has been disproved by history and how much has been demolished by his opponents. The Marxian creed was propounded sometime in the middle of the 19th century. Since then it has been subjected to much criticism. As a result of this criticism, much of the ideological structure raised by Karl Marx has broken to pieces. There is hardly any doubt that Marxist claim that his socialism was inevitable has been completely disproved. The dictatorship of the proletariat was first established in 1917 in one country after a period of something like 70 years after the publication of his Das Kapital, The Gospel of Socialism. Even when the Communism, which is another name for the dictatorship of the proletariat, came to Russia, it did not come as something inevitable without any kind of human effort. There was a revolution and much deliberate planning had to be done with a lot of violence and bloodshed before it could step into Russia. The rest of the world is still waiting for coming of the proletarian dictatorship. Apart from this general falsification of the Marxian thesis that socialism is inevitable, many of the other propositions stated in the lists have also been demolished both by logic as well as by experience. Nobody now accepts The economic interpretation of history as the only explanation of history. Nobody accepts that the proletariat has been progressively pauperized. And the same is true about his other premises. What remains of the Karl Marx is a residue of fire, small but still very important. The residue in my view consists of 4 items. I. The function of philosophy is to reconstruct the world and not to waste its time in explaining the origin of the world. 2. That there is a conflict of interest between class and class. 3. That private ownership of property brings power to one class and sorrow to another through exploitation. 4. That it is necessary for the good of society that the sorrow be removed by the abolition of private property.